Hello everyone, how are you today? I hope you guys are pumped up for this Saturday. Oh, I can't hear anything.
Make some noise, please. Ready? One. Yes.
We have an exciting event planned for you.
Yes. So today we'll talk about the Flutter, and we will just explore this in huge potential here itself. So we'll deep dive into details on various topics. And yes, before we go further, we just want to check. I hope the energy is high level totally and is skyrocketing. And before we go further, please just whoever is sitting beside your friends, please change your seat. Why? Because basically we came for two things. One is to gain knowledge and for the networking, right? Am I right? Yes or no? Yeah. So whoever is sitting beside the friends, you can just change your seats. And yes, we are just going to start now.
5 seconds, you can shift your seats.
Yeah.
I'm counting. I'm counting. One. Oh, take me seriously. Come on. One, two, three, 3.1,
Yeah, that's nice.
3, 4,
Good.
4.1, 4, 2, 3, 4.5. Are you
Perfect.
sure you guys don't know each other now? I only saw 2, 3 people move. Okay, that's okay. We'll play some quizzes and all for icebreakers. But before we begin, we are launching something special today. So over to you, Bhushan. It's we all know Flutter Bangalore doesn't have a logo yet. Yet we have it now. So
Yes. Great.
welcome to yet another GeekyAnts Meetup Saturday.
Yeah. And in case you are wondering that who we are, my name is Prem.
I am Sanna. We handle social and communities over here. So if you have a meetup or a conference that you want to host or attend in GeekyAnts or outside somewhere, we are your people. So you can follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. I go by Sanna_Bara.
And my is Prem Goswami 07.
And welcome to Geeky Ants. If this is the first time you are here attending a meetup at Geeky Ants or visiting Geeky Ants, let me quickly tell you who we are in a glimpse. We are a product design and development studio that turns ideas into realities. And we are a community driven first company and focus on tech stacks such as React, React Native, Flutter, we have built some amazing product. You might have heard about Native Base. We are the math scientists behind it. And very recently, we have launched GlueStack. It's another open source project. It's a universal UI component library tool. It can be used for any industry. We have used it in few of our client projects, and we have seen quite good results over there. So do check it out if you're interested. Uh, Additionally, we host a lot of meetups such as this one, and we are an active we take active participation in tech and business community. So our leaders also attend a lot of tech conferences. Very recently, we hosted our first international meetup in London, where we had the chance to meet few of the Amazon folks. You can find more stories on Geeky Ants Twitter handle and Instagram. Do follow us. We go by Geeky Ants, just Geeky Ants. So, in a nutshell, we love building relationships along with building communities. Let me quickly tell you about the agenda for today. We have speakers from PhonePe, 100MS, a co-founder at Nix, who also happens to be a student. We talk about existential crisis right over there. And we have a speaker from Geeky Ants as well.
Yes. So now we'll just go through the most important slides, which is code of conduct. I'll just read quickly. Do not use any hate speech and inappropriate comments. Keep it light. be respectful and refrain from using strong words. This is a space for growth and learning. Promote that. Get to know your fellow attendees and speakers. That's all about the networking. And I will recommend that as we are here. So at least 5 people during your break time, you can network, and it is really, really helpful. And keep your questions for a panel discussion, which we'll be having at the end of the speaker's talk. And maintain silence while the speakers is giving their talk, because this is the most important. Because speakers, and also apart from that silence, whenever they will come on the stage, while coming and when they finish the talk, they deserve the huge round of applause. So please just scream as much as you can. Okay.
The most important thing, Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
Please connect to GeekyAnts guest Wi-Fi. Password is GeekyAnts capital G capital A at guest capital G 2023. Oh, we know it's 2024, but okay. I think I might be on leave for this. You can scan the QR code as well. That's easier, I feel.
yeah. And also there is a few hashtag geeky ants flutter. Whenever you want to engage for with the geeky ants, you can just post and you can use your hashtag. It is extreme helpful for that,
Do
for
post
everybody.
about us.
Yeah,
Do post about us. Okay, we are having some amazing speakers. Take pictures with them. Take pictures with us. We are ready to pose all the time. Okay.
that's amazing.
And let's get started. Before we flutter away, let me bring upon our keynote speaker for the day. She's going to introduce you to what we are doing in the Flutter community. Um, so the keynote speaker for the day is Akanksha Despande. She's a senior software engineer here at GeekyAnts. So
Hello.
let's
Yep.
welcome Akanksha to kick things off.
Thank you guys for setting up the stage, and I think we all are ready for the wonderful evening here. I'm here to just talk about what's the buzz about Flutter and what we did. I think I would say achieved here at GeekyAnts with Flutter, and also a few of the meetups and events which the journey of us in GeekyAnts. And I think I'm just going to set the stage and agenda for the evening. So welcome all of you. Good afternoon once again. I'm Akanksha Deshpande, working as a engineer at GeekyAnts. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so what's the buzz about Flutter? We Flutter did release a lot of versions as usual last year as well, right from 3.10 to 3.16. So all the versions did give a lot of inputs and improvements in each and every domains, I would say. So yeah, I think Dart 3.2 is out now. So Flutter 3.16 has been released. So we are currently using I think all of our projects, and we would have faced the pressure to upgrade our projects to 3.16. The first pointer being material 3, which has been completion for almost probably throughout the year. So they have been making improvements for this. I think the material 3 was not by default in the beginning of the year, I would say, but it is now the default theme for every Flutter application. So the material 3 2 is going to get deprecated eventually with the new components, new styles, new themes. Flutter 3 is material 3 is going to make a big success. Okay, I think impeller, we know all about, all of us know about the impeller. How did it bring us the great performance increase in the iOS devices? So I think we would have a long tech talk itself if I start saying about what impeller did. I think to brief it out, probably I would say the sorry. Oh yeah. Okay. So basically the shaders and the render pipelines which were executed at the runtime in Skia. So impeller, basically, to give a brief about everyone, so impeller is going to replace the Skia, which was the render engine in iOS. So now the impeller is going to act as a render engine for the iOS device. So with the Skia, the shaders and the render pipelines used to give a lot of stutter, by which obviously it used to run at the runtime. So it used to execute it at the runtime. So with the impeller, we now have all the jank and the stutter removed because the compilation happens ahead of time. So this is the brief about. So basically, in just few words, we are having more time with the frame. I mean, more time frame in the UI. So yeah, that's about Impala. We have a lot of future plans. I think Android is not stable as of now, so they are going to release a stable version of Android, and they are even thinking of creating custom render pipelines, which the user can build and then run, and maybe we can do the render packages. So yeah, I think the Flutter Games Toolkit probably that's exciting for the gamers here. So there has been a lot of extensive set of tools which actually develop the game whole process of game development here. So I think they even integrated services like in-app purchases, multiplayer support as well. So yeah, I think a lot of templates has been added. I mean the card games and for the endless run games. So the genre plays, I say. So yeah, yeah, and think Flutter 3.3 supports the latest 14, and the iOS and Xcode as well. Okay, so Android 14. So we did, yeah. So Android 14, with the release of Android 14, the predictive back navigation gesture was introduced. Obviously, Twitter also introduced the predictive back navigation. So basically, it's our the back navigation itself, wherein we can peek into the mobile. I mean, the home screen from the current screen from the behind, basically. So we'll just do like this, right? So yeah, and yeah, a lot of improvements in the tools as well. So one of them I thought was in the VS Code in the sidebar. So we now have a create Flutter project there itself, and the hot reload and the navigation to the dev tools. Plus, we do have improvements in the developer tools wherein we can add the extension and create our own tools and plug into it. So that's really cool. Yeah, I think foldable phones are now a trend, so a lot of support has been given to that. And yeah, cool Flutter apps like YouTube, Google Earth, and all of them have been released. Yeah, I think this is all about what's the buzz around Flutter. So now coming to the what we did with Flutter here at GeekyAnts. I think we did have a lot going on last year. I think we have some great news to announce. So I'll be walking you through the good part. So let's keep to the good part. Yes, you heard it right. Now, GeekyAnts has been listed Google official Flutter consultant. So that's a big win for us. Yeah, I think yes. So that's the biggest win for us. Thanks to all of our leaders. I would say Sankit, Saurabh, Ruchika for helping us. I mean, this is a cumulative effort which we have been putting for past 5 to 6 years now. So I think we would have never made to this level if small efforts would have not been accumulated, I would say. And the next great news is yes, we made it to the pub.dev again. So we released the Flutter Gauges package. So you could try out the application on the pub.dev. So we even have the demo application here. Let me show you. Yeah. So you can try out the linear gauges. They have been, I mean, the use cases have been listed out, and even the playground is there for you. So yeah, speedometer and everything. I mean, this is a lot, right? Yeah. Okay. So going back to our next biggest update. Yeah. So now our code is part of Flutter. We did make to the Flutter code also official Flutter code. I think thanks to Hasnain, he did merge few of the PRs to the Flutter code. I think you can check out all these PRs as well. Okay, so here is the cherry on the top. So I would like to announce that we have been experimenting. I mean, this was one of the internal projects which we just did it as a POC, which we eventually, I mean, usually do with our projects or client projects or with any complex feature. So this was our experimental project. So which we have been using internally also. So which is GlueStack UI Flutter. I think this is, as you know, I think Sana already gave the introduction. That is, it is a UI library, which Yeah, UI library, which helps us in building beautiful design and stunning web and mobile applications, of course. So I mean, what makes this different from the UI, I mean, libraries which are there in the market? I think a lot of the UI libraries are already there. So this isn't just a typical UI library. So it's a complete changer for the developers who wants to build mobile and web applications, of course. So I would walk you through a few of the main features here. I mean, we have a lot to come up, so we are still exploring it. But yeah, I think it's time to make it available for everyone so that everyone can use it. And we are open to feedback, critics, and also support. Okay, important features, I think customizable widgets. So what makes this stand out is we the style configuration. I mean, the styles set widget by the JSON configuration. So basically, we in the future plans also we do have that we are allowing the user to change the styles in the JSON format, basically. So yeah, and also the widgets are responsive in nature, and we have built the widgets keeping in mind the modern web design principles as well. So optimized for web, as I told, the web focused components, layouts, and themes have been designed. Yeah, so why declarative and dynamic styling? So declarative, as I told you, that we are allowing the user to, I mean, change the JSON, right? So hence the name declarative. And dynamic styling is, yeah, so I think to help the developers, to make the developers life easier, so we have introduced inline styles override also. So wherein, I mean, it would save a lot of time, and like just to make a small change, you need not to go to the JSON and completely change that. You can just make it inline. Yeah, I think effortless integration, I think this is the important thing for all UI libraries. So you have to just import and you're all set in. Yeah, and yeah, as I said, there's a lot of improvements and new widget features have been, I mean, has to be introduced into this. So we are all focusing on that. I think let me show you how it looks. Okay, I think I'll go to the package. So this is the GlueStack UI Flutter package. So wherein we do have the storybook in place, wherein let me show you probably the button. So we do have, second, yeah, so we do have all the variants of the button. So you can play around with this negative, positive, and the badges and the box and center. Yeah, so these are the few widgets which we have introduced as of now. So we are yet to I think we have a long way to go here. Yeah, and there is a sample application which we have created using the GlueStack UI. So you guys can check out this. So yeah, basic probably an e-commerce type of application. Yeah, looks pretty much cool. uh, Oops. All right. Yeah, so let's get back to the slide. Yeah, so I think that's the biggest news about today, launching the GlueStack UI Flutter. So we are all excited to experiment with this. Yeah, so here comes the last part, which is our journey in the events and meetups. So like today, so obviously we have been, as a Flutter community, we had made waves last year. So we did right from writing blogs, tech talks, and hosting Geek Speaks. We were all in. I think Geek speaks about topics like Dart Frog, and Flutter Flow. Probably many more were there. So we did attend the meetup at Ahmedabad, which is Flutter conference, and also which Flutter meetup at Cred's office. And we hosted the Flutter Forward Extended also. And I think I forgot to add today's event also. So today's event also gets into the list. So yeah, and we were a speaker at Flutter Mumbai event as well. So yeah, we made big waves here by attending, and probably we like to be in the community. So we like to learn. So that's how we like to be in the community, I guess. So learning never ends at GeekyAnts. So I think that's the agenda. Probably each one of us personally has. So I myself probably not want to just stop and okay, like just say okay, that's it. So never that that's never a word in GeekyAnts. Okay. I think for the GlueStack UI, we have few people who actually were involved personally in developing those. So we can connect. So Rujika is there, so you can connect with her. A lot of networking can happen, and collaboration might start with the GlueStack UI Flutter. Nice. Yeah, I think we have come to the end of the keynote. So I will just quickly, give the agenda. Probably Sana has already given. So these are the speakers. So we have topics like add to app with Flutter by Aswin Gopinathan, and bring your own design system. The guide to theming in Flutter by Aditya, and Flutter beyond mobile and web. Okay, this seems interesting. Okay, Baswan Dev, and Flutter and React Native integration demystified. So by our in-house speaker, which is Hasnain. Nice. I think, yeah, probably we'll get started with the tech talks. I think we'll be going to enjoy all of the tech talks. I hope. So yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Akanksha. Can we give her a huge round of applause? Thank you. All right, it's time to bring forward our first speaker for the day, Ashwin Gopinathan. He's an active member of the Flutter community since 2018, and he has been giving talks at various tech conferences and meetups. And he's passionate about mobile application development. Also, as always, he makes sure to learn something new every day. So let's hear more from him. He's gonna be here in a while.
Thank you.
Now, give clap for him.
Hello. Am I audible to the back? Perfect. All right. So I'll just begin. So hi everyone. My name is Ashwin Gopinathan. Yeah, I'm an Ashwin without an H. So I'm a software engineer at PhonePe. I work at the consumer lending team for iOS. But you might be thinking, what is an iOS developer guy doing in a Flutter conference? I've been working with Flutter for almost like 4 to 5 years now. I started back in 2019, and since then I've been part of Flutter. So, what are we going to do today, or what are we going to build today? Let me show you the application that we're going to build today. Okay, I'm going to ask my crush out. No, don't worry, she's not here. She's in a whole different nation called Imagination. So, as per my experiences, past experiences, I know that as soon as I give the app, she's going to click on that no button. So, I booby trap the no button. If you click on it, it's going to keep going. Even after like 2 years or 3 years, she still wouldn't be able to click on no. But let's say what happens when she clicks on yes. I'll be standing with the guitar singing something. So this is the application that I'm going to build. It's very simple, but the thing is, this particular screen is built with native iOS, that is with Swift and UI Kit, and this screen is built with Flutter. So that's the concept I'm going to talk about today. It's called add to app. It means use Flutter in a native application. That's a layman definition you can get. Use Flutter in a native application. So let's see the architecture about it. So before I start with the architecture, let me just tell you a story. Before I joined PhonePe, I was in Zest Money. So there we had a product called personal loan. So personal loan was like a big product in the market at that time. It's like it either can bring you profit, can either bring you loss. So as per our stakeholders, we wanted personal loan to be out in the market as soon as possible. So we had only one option, build with Flutter, so that both Android and iOS can reuse that. Sorry. So that's how we ended up using Flutter for personal loan over there for both Android and iOS. So that's the same concept over here. It's called add to app. Let me talk about the architecture for that. You create, let's say, you create a screen using Flutter. Now we want to integrate into an Android application and an iOS application. So for Android, we have activities and fragments, and for iOS, we have view controllers and view. So the Flutter engine, the entire engine that makes Flutter work, is going to convert the corresponding screen to a corresponding activity or view controller in the native code. So that's how it's going to run in an Android application and an iOS application. Why don't I show the code for all of you? So as I've shown, I'm going to build this entire application. Before that, let me show you how we can get started with the entire thing. So what you need to do is create a random folder anywhere on your desktop or your Finder anywhere. I'm just going to add to app demo. So first I'm going to start with the native application, because add to app basically means that you have an existing iOS application, an existing Android application, and you're going to work with Flutter into that. So I'm going to start with a new native iOS application. So I'm just going to create a new project. I'm just going to name it add to app demo. That's why you can just leave it to the default selection over here. I'm going to put inside the folder that I've created, that is add to app demo over here. I'll tell you why I'm creating a separate folder for this. So this is done. I'll just run the application. Yeah. It's anyhow going to run. We don't have to worry about that. So now you have created, if you go to the folder over there, this is the folder I was talking about. I've created the native iOS application or the native application over there. Next, what we need to do is we need to create a Flutter application. For that, I basically go with Visual Studio Code because it makes things easier for you. So I'm going to create a new project. So in VS Code, or if you go to Android Studio, you might get an option to select the type of Flutter project you want to create. It could be an application, it could be a module, it could be a plugin or something like that. It could be even be a package also. So I'm going to choose module over here. So just select module from here. I'm going to put inside the same project, same folder where I created the native application. So I'm just going to create a new folder. I'm going to name it add to app demo. Well, even that's getting created right now. Yeah, it's created. Now, what you need to do is go back to the folder. So here you have an existing native application. Then you created a new Flutter module. Now you're going to connect both of them. So what you need to do is, you already have a folder that you've created. Just drag and drop into VS Code or whichever IDEs you use for this. Then now you need to go inside the native application. As you can see, currently in iOS, basically, you can see only Xcode project. For now, you need to initialize a pod file. Pod file is where you provide all the dependencies that you need for your native application. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to go inside that folder. I think it was add to app demo, yeah. Inside that particular native application, basically. I'm just going to run pod in it. It's going to create a pod file for me. Something seems to be wrong. Okay. Some version mismatch. Just give me a moment. This is the file. If you go here, these are some basic iOS things. I think you may need to know about it. I'm just going to create. Just going to go and create the pod file. Okay, created the pod file. Now go to VS Code where you open that particular folder. So you can see a pod file generated over here. So there are few things you need to add here so that the native application can talk to the Flutter application that you created. So for that, I'll just copy code from the earlier one so that it will be easier. I'll explain what this means over here. All right. Starting with the first, we need to specify the path of the Flutter module that you created over here. So the Flutter module, as you can see on the left-hand side, It's called add to app underscore, I mean add underscore to app demo. Just gonna copy that and paste the path over here. Next, this will be always hard coded because whenever you create a Flutter module, the end file, that is pod helper.rb, will always be inside .ios followed by Flutter directory. So that is the path I'm providing over here. I'm actually appending the entire path to the given project name. So it's like you have .ios folder, then you have Flutter folder, then you have the file pod helper.rb. Then, so you have defined where you can find the configurations for your Flutter module. Now you need to install them. For that, I've added a line over here called install all Flutter pods. That means you're going to install all the Flutter pods you have in your module, basically. So with that, yeah, there's one more thing over here, that is post install. This is going to run after you install all the dependencies. This is only required when you're running the entire application on an Apple Silicon simulators. So apart from that, you don't need this basically, but it's better always to add it over here. So after I made the changes over here, just need to go back to terminal. I'm just going to clear this. I'm just going to make it. It's visible at the back, right? Good. Yeah, sure. How about now? Good. I'm just going to put it up a bit. Yeah. So since I made the changes in the pod file, now I just need to run pod install again. I mean, pod install I have to run. It's saying add to app, sorry. Fine. Okay. I forgot to change the thing. Since I copied this from an existing project that I already created, I forgot to change the target name over here. This target name will correspond to the native iOS project name you have created. That is ask to app demo. So just need to paste it over here, save, and just run the command again. So now you can see it has installed two things. That is, one is Flutter and the other is called Flutter plugin registrant. We are going to use both of these packages or plugins, you can say, to run the entire Flutter module in your native application. Now what you need to do is go back to the folder where you created the entire native project. Go inside the native project. Now you can see a new workspace has been created. Whenever you run a pod install in iOS, the Xcode project gets converted to an Xcode workspace where you will get access to all the dependencies you have added for that. So I'm just going to open that one right now. So if you go to the pods section on the top, here inside development pods, you can find the two pods that I have installed. There's Flutter and Flutter plugin registrant. Now what we need to do is we're just going to run the application. Just give me a moment. Okay. Something seems to be up. It's not coming up properly. It happens whenever I give a live demo, so it's okay. Anyway, from this point, I'll go back to the application that I already created so that it'll be easier for me to continue forward. So this was the entire application that I showed as a demo, where I'm asking out my crush and all those things. I don't think I'm not going to deep dive into the code. I'll share the code on GitHub after this session. You can go through it and get to know how I've implemented that. It's pretty straightforward, so it's okay. Now, I'm just gonna run this entire application. Just give me a moment. So once you have created your existing iOS application, that is already when you already have an iOS application, what you need to do is, okay, let me start from the scratch. I had made some changes for my purpose. Okay. So this is how the code will look when you create your first application. That is the first native application on iOS using UIKit and Swift. So the app delegate is basically the entry point, or you can say it's like a class that can handle all your delegations that happen in the entire app lifecycle or the iOS lifecycle. It can tell you when the background will run. I mean, it can tell you which code to run when any background task has to be executed, or anything like all the lifecycle things of iOS. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm first going to import Flutter, and then I'm going to import Flutter plugin registrant. Next, there is a overridden method. Okay, before that, you can see over here it's basically extending two particular classes, that is UI responder and UI application delegate. You need to remove that one and replace that with Flutter app delegate. This will anyhow internally, let me just show you. It internally goes and extends the UI application delegate that you saw earlier. So you can use this instead of the earlier one that I already had over here. That is this one. So I'm just gonna replace it with Flutter app delegate. Now it's gonna give me some errors. It's basically telling you need to add the override keyword over there. I'm just gonna provide an entire thing. All right. Now the code remains the same. There's not much change. Now you need to start working with integrating your Flutter application or Flutter module into this existing application. So for that, we'll start with by creating a variable that will be, it's called Flutter Engine. We're gonna create an instance of Flutter Engine. It's not the variable. I'm gonna start with the property name. I'm just gonna give a random name to this Flutter Engine. I'm gonna give ask your crush out. You can give some random name, and you can access this Flutter engine using the name. So if you, let's say you create multiple Flutter engine instances, you can access them by this particular name. So now let's go inside the function did finish launch with option. This is the first method, or this is a method that gets called every time your app relaunches or launches for the first time. So what I'm going to do over here is, we had to initialize the Flutter engine, it's already done. And now, okay, there are two. Okay, there's one more thing. You have created an instance of the Flutter engine. Now you need to run that so that you can add new Flutter views to that. Or basically, like, let's say you have created a view on Flutter. Let me show you the example again. So when I clicked on yes, a particular screen came up. This one is built using Flutter. In order to load that, you need the Flutter engine. So in order for the Flutter engine to work, you need to like run the engine first. As like, let's say you want to start a vehicle, you need to start the engine first, then only it will move forward. So it's something similar to that. You need to run the engine first. So I'm just gonna write Flutter engine dot run. By this way, you will be able to run the Flutter engine before you can work with it. Next, you're gonna add some basic lines, boilerplate code over here. Register with self dot. Then you can either return true from here, or you can directly call the superclass. It's always nice to call the superclass because you never know. Application did finish. All right. So by this way, let's just run the app once again. Let's see if it doesn't crash in between or something. I'll create a separate. Okay, I'll just give me a moment. All right, the app ran without any problems. So your setup was successful. You didn't crash the application. Now, next thing is, what you did till now is you created an instance of Flutter engine and you have made it run so that whenever you want a Flutter view to be added, it will directly be added to it. You don't have to run it again. So now let's go to the point where we're gonna add the callback. Whenever you click the yes button, you want to redirect to a Flutter screen. So let's add the code for that now. I think I've already added. I'm just gonna remove the code so that I can explain that properly. Okay. So these are all the boilerplate code you need for running this entire screen. I'm just curious about this particular function called on yes clicked. So this particular function will be called when you click the yes button over here. So let me just rerun this again, just testing something. works. And when you click on the yes button, it doesn't work because I just removed the code for that. So in order to get started with initializing a Flutter view controller, as I said, in iOS we have view controller. View controller basically represents the screen that you're working in. It could be a normal screen that you have. I mean, it could be any screen that you have for the iOS application. So Flutter view controller is something that you use to actually open a Flutter view. Or Flutter view can be a Flutter screen also. So basically you start by importing Flutter over here, and this is the function where we're gonna trigger the Flutter module from our native application. So I'm gonna start with getting the Flutter engine instance. So the Flutter engine instance was created in app delegate. So I'm gonna get that instance so that we have already run that over here. So you don't need to create a separate instance for that. So I'm just gonna get this instance over here. You start with let Flutter engine equal to. So you have access to the Flutter engine that you created in the file app delegate. So I'm just gonna add it over here and add some basic null check so that the app doesn't crash if the engine is not able to load over there. These are boilerplate code. Once you start looking into Swift, you'll get to know how to write this. So this is basically a null check. I've created an optional variable over here, so I need to check whether the engine exists or not. If it doesn't exist, I'm just going to return from there. So basic boilerplate code, and now I have the access to the Flutter engine. Now what you need to do is you need to create an instance of the Flutter view controller. As I said in the architecture, Flutter engine creates two different types of view, one for Android and one for iOS. In iOS, we have view controllers. In Android, we have activities and fragments. So I'm going to create a Flutter view controller so that the view controller can be used in the iOS application. So for that, you go back to the code. It will be let Flutter view controller equal to. Then you have multiple properties for Flutter view controller. We go with the one that requires an engine to be passed to it. So I'm going to go with that. The engine will be the instance that I've already created over here. Others can be nil. Nil is basically null in Swift. So I'm just gonna beautify this or let it be like that. Now you have created, let's see what's the issue over here. Flutter engine, Flutter, oh sorry, it should be Flutter engine. Alright. Now I have access to the Flutter view controller, which is corresponding to the Flutter module that I created for this particular project. Next, what you need to do is once you have access to the Flutter view controller, you basically have access to the entire screen itself. Now, in Flutter, we use navigator.push to go to the next screen. It's something similar over here. We have a navigation controller, then we have push method, push view controller. It's similar to Flutter. In Flutter, we use navigator.push. Here we use navigation controller.push view controller. iOS is very it's complicating, but still. Now we call Flutter view controller, the view controller that we created. Then I'm gonna go with the animated property to be true. Now let's see by running the application. All right. Now the no button still works as required. Now let's say if I click on yes, it's going inside. It's going to the Flutter view controller. It's going to the Flutter module that I created. But there's some issue. There's a navigation bar on the top. It shouldn't be there actually. For that, because we in the Flutter app itself can provide the app bar and create a navigation bar for that. So in order to hide that, I'm just going to add one more line of code over here. In the navigation controller instance, you have access to navigation bar. Then dot is hidden equal to true. Let's see if this will work or not. Now I clicked on yes. It went inside, doesn't have the navigation controller, the app bar on the top. Now you can use Flutter itself to provide the app bar on the scaffold and do anything you want to do with it. So this particular property shows the power of the imperative programming style that UIKit uses. It's opposed to like how in Flutter we use declarative approach. iOS uses, I mean Swift UI, I mean not Swift UI. UI kit uses imperative approach to change UI and everything like that. So with this, let's see, we'll just run the app again. So this is how you create a Flutter application, Flutter module, and integrate into a native iOS application. Something similar happens for Android, but I'm not the right guy to take an Android session. But I'll walk you through, like I'll give you the resources that you need to understand how you can do the same for Android. Next, let me just go forward. There's one more thing I think. I just missed something. All right. Now you might be curious. Like, let me go back to the folder structure. Now you see, the add to app demo, the first folder was the native iOS application. Then you created a native, I mean, a Flutter application with an underscore name and everything. Now, how does the native application know which module to pick up? Let's say you create one more module over here. Let's say you create two more or n number of modules over here. How does the Flutter, I mean, the native code know which module to pick up? But that's actually could be a limitation of add to app, but you can only import a single module at a time in a Flutter in a native application. So now you might be curious, how can we add multiple support? How can we use multiple modules in a single native application? For that, what we do is we create an entry point project, or you can say we can create an entry point module where you can import multiple projects to pubspec.yaml and create the entry point over there. So if you have a single entry point, then that entry point will connect to multiple modules, and you can use multiple modules in your application. So that's how we work with that. Apart from that, let's see. Okay, there are a lot more to talk about it, but we don't have time constraint. Because of time constraint, we can't go forward with those things. But you can always reach out to me. I'm gonna be here towards the end of the session as well. So yeah, there's one more thing I need to tell. This is something that I tell everyone, and this is something that I learned from my experience. Don't try to be a Flutter developer. I'm not. I know. Try to be a mobile application developer, because there's a difference in that. I'm not going to tell what's the difference. If you know, it's good. Otherwise, just reach out to me anytime during the day and explain you what it means. So again, don't try to be a Flutter developer. Try to be a mobile application developer. Yeah, you can Google search my name to know more about me, and you can reach out to me anywhere you want. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ashwin. Thank you for demonstrating how to integrate a Flutter app to an existing native app. Let's give him a round of applause. All right. So let's call upon our next speaker, Bashwant. He's a co-founder at a startup called Nix. And we were so inspired to find out that he's also a student. He dreams about becoming a GDE, which I'm very sure won't take enough time with his passion for Flutter. So put your hands together for Bashwant.
Hello, hello, hello. Am I audible to the back? Yeah. So, yeah. Before I start anything, I just wanted to ask you all, how many of you are Flutter developers currently right now? Okay, many of you, right? Even you. Yeah, mobile application developers, right? Okay. Now tell me, how many of you are iOS and Android app developers, like using Flutter? Okay, I see a lot of you. How many of you are developing iOS applications using Flutter? Oh, the strength decreased. I need next. I need full attendance the next time. Okay. How many of you are developing for web using Flutter? Okay, it increased. Great. Sorry, I saw some other survey. Sorry for the. It's my bad. How many are you developing for PC or PC or Mac OS? Okay, still few. Okay. How many are you developing for Wear OS or Watch OS? Okay, one hand, including me. Okay. Yeah, like how many of you know what Wear OS is or Watch OS? Okay. WatchOS is basically the Apple iPhone Series 9, Series 8, the all branded stuff. And Wear OS is for Samsung, Galaxy Watch 4, Watch 5, Classic, all the rich people things, okay? Not of my sort. Oh, sorry, bro. Okay. So with this, I got you covered. For me also, it took a lot of time to discover how do we develop apps using Flutter for Wear OS. I got you covered. I'm here to help you. Myself, Bashwan. This is my talk today. Flutter for Wear OS. I will be developing an app in Wear OS in live today. And before I start, I just want to talk about this plugin called Wearable Rotary. This is a plugin that communicates with the native code and help us use the wearable gestures to use our Flutter applications. There is a Kotlin plugin named like made by Samsung. It uses generic motion events. What does generic motion event mean? In an device, if you rotate the bezel, you know the bezels, right? This thing, which sounds hard, trick trick trick, yeah, that thing. And if you rotate the bezel, the motion is captured by the plugin and it interacts with the application, which is already present in Kotlin. And this rotary plugin uses that Kotlin code. I'll show it to you in a moment to communicate with our applications. And like there is an event channel which is in this plugin, which is named Flutter.Wearable Rotary Channel. That rotary channel continuously streams to our application, and we use our subscription model within our Flutter applications to connect with the rotary applications. Now, let me directly dive into our application development. Okay, is it visible at the back? Okay, this is the basic counter application which is already there. The basic thing first we need to do as soon as you open Flutter for developing various applications or WatchOS applications is first go to Android app, build Gradle, and you need to change the minimum SDK version to 23 because if how many of you like even if someone don't know, I'm letting you tell like VeroS runs on Android, but it is called Android Go, which is older versions of Android. So just go to build.gradle and change the version to minimum SDK version to 23. Done. We'll be using that wearable rotary plugin that I have been talking about. That is the plugin which is useful for connecting with our Flutter applications using Wear OS. It seems to be simple by listening, but it took me almost 5 to 6 months to figure it out how to work on it. Okay, this is this basic counter app. Let's start with the counter application for Wear OS also, traditional methods. Let me create this one more function and call it decrement counter. Okay, I don't think app bar is needed for this application. I'm just leaving the column and center as it is, and I wanted to remove the floating action bar as well, and this text as well. Now, if I run this application in this Wear OS, hope it works. Okay, by the time it starts, take you through the Flutter plugin that I have been talking about. See, this is the wearable rotary plugin. If you wanted to know about it, I have searched many YouTube videos and even gone through pub.dev documentaries, but I could not find it anywhere. Once I have imported it and then went to readme.md file, then I understood why basics are very important in Flutter. See, this is the Kotlin code that I have been talking about, and this thing on generic motion event. The generic motion event is something which takes the motion of the wearable things that you wear, and this thing has to be added to the Kotlin file to use this application. Let me quickly add it off. It shows an error, but it works. uh, like I have told you, right, like it was built by Samsung, so I couldn't find the code for it. Sorry. And the dependencies, how do we add it? And this is a stream subscription, which is a rotary event with which we can use the code. Okay, let's wait for this time. By the time it works, I just wanted to tell you a small story. I had developed a nap in warehouse, and I, like, in my room I live in a hostel. In my room I told, अब तो मैं गूगल में प्लेसमेंट लूंगा. मेरा फ्रेंड यहाँ बैठ के, अबे साले नशे में हो क्या, सो जा चल. Okay, the emulator is not working. Yeah, it's been. This is the counter app that I'm talking about, but without any buttons or without any event, how would it work? As you all might have guessed it already, it won't work. See, this is the bezel that is in the Android Studio itself. If I rotate it also, it doesn't work because we didn't even subscribe to the subscription that I have been talking about. So to get it started, let me call the initialization state method and then paste it. I just paste it from readme.md file. Yeah, importing the libraries. Async application. ये बेसिकली कुछ नहीं है. बेजल क्लॉक वाइज में रोटेट करेगा तो क्या होना चाहिए, एंटी क्लॉक वाइज में करना है तो क्या क्या होना चाहिए. इसको ढूंढने के लिए मुझे 6 months लगा था. सॉरी, आई एम बैड फ्लटर डेवलपर. सॉरी, मोबाइल एप्लीकेशन डेवलपर. Okay. For this thing to happen, what I'm doing is, as I already told you, uh, let's call this increment counter function here. If it rotates clockwise, and call this decrement counter function here. So if the bezel rotates clockwise, it will increment the counter, and if like the bezel rotates anti-clockwise, it will decrement the counter. First, let me initialize this also. Okay. By the way, I forgot to dispose it. Sorry. Okay. Now you can see this. Okay. Let me restart the code. One more thing I forgot to tell you all is it is made by Samsung. Like it is made only for Samsung watches. But what this plugin provides us is it duplicates the Samsung plugin and then enables us to use it for wearables as well and watches as well. सॉरी भाई, ये काम नहीं कर रहा है. At this moment, I just want to tell you all that moye moye, moye moye. By the way, a good point to note here is this is a backdrop of warehouse development. It sometimes works, it sometimes doesn't work. Let me open the file that I had already. At least I can show you the result. Yeah, it worked now. As you all can see, it is working. See, on rotating the bezel, the counter is getting incremented and decremented. Yeah, finally I did it. Claps to me. Please, guys. That's why I told you it took me 5 months. Okay. Now with this inspiration, sorry, now I have to tell inspiration. Let me develop a music app for you all, guys. And main thing to remember is small screen. We have to we should never forget the responsiveness. Okay. I mean, I know many of you guys leave it. Many of you opt it as open elective, right? Yeah, I have this already ready. Let me just copy the code for you. Uh, just beside this text folder, let me create a row. And in row, let me create the circle avatar. Same coding as all you know. Let's just creating. Okay. Now I just wanted to put the music player in off for now. So for that, what I'm doing is let me call a variable, boolean variable, where bool is playing equal to false. Sorry, my spelling mistake. Okay. And now if is playing is false, then let the icon be icons dot pause. Else let it be icons dot play. And on pressed. Let me call if function is playing is if the music player is playing, I just wanted to initialize the music player plugin. I'm just using plugins. Okay. This is the plugin that I have already imported. Let me keep the duration to 0 at first. Okay, I have initialized two variables which are duration which are variables, that is just a plugin. I have just put the position and the duration to be 0 at first. Okay. If the music player is in pause state, then let's put the player dot pause. Else let's put the player to player dot play asset source. I'm just using the asset source. I have already imported that file. अब म्यूजिक प्लेयर तो बन गया पर it's not in center. What do you all have to do? I can't hear. अरे many people have raised when I asked how many are Flutter developers. ऐसे नहीं चलते. Okay. Now in the initialization function, sorry, in the increment and decrement function, I have used the counter, but I have not done anything with the player yet. So what I'm going to do is, if position of the player in seconds, like I'm calculating it in seconds, is greater than 1, then I just wanted the player to seek to the duration. Did you get this, guys? If I rotate the bezel clockwise direction, I just wanted the player to the seek to the next second. So if I do the same with decrement counter, I just wanted to do the opposite one. I just wanted to decrease the counter and change the condition in such a way that the position is less than the duration of the player. Okay. Once this is done, I have been talking about this audio player, right? So for that, what we need to do is we just need to create the on duration change, and we need to call the state methods. So I'm just copy pasting it to just decrease the time. So we just need to call these in initialization section. And in the dispose section, let's dispose the player as well. Player.release. And one more thing I just forgot. In this counter application, there is no, like, we are not using counter anymore, right? So what I wanted to put here is, I just wanted to put the seconds that we are using. Now the app is ready. I just wanted to make it little bit beautiful. I'm just copying this code to just not to waste the time. In the column, let me add this tag as well. This is also a plugin that I have been using. Okay, this is what it looks after it's done. Is it looking good? Are tell the truth? It's not liquid. I also know that.
Yeah.
Sorry. To the team to the team mainly. Okay. So this is what is basically that I wanted to tell you. Let me run the perfect app now. I'll show you what it is and how it should look actually. Okay. This is the app how it looks. There is one more plugin called Wear, but I'm out of time and just don't want to talk about it. This is an ambient mode, always on display. Everyone are using Apple Watches. What is this, dude? Always on display. Okay. So using this, what I have done it in such, I have done it in such a way that I don't want more to use this touch bar. Sorry. Frankly speaking, see my watch. It is this much, right? See my finger. If I put it, I can't even see myself. So that's for that reason I had started researching in it. If I start the player, it's running.
Yeah.
I can take my where I want just by rotating the bezel.
You are the
Just by rotating the bezel, I can do whatever I wanted. In this way, like it makes us easier using this plugin to develop not only to develop apps in various, but also for the controlling purposes. Like I'll show you a few examples on what type of applications that could be created. Sorry, it's not visible. Sorry, I don't have. Sorry, I don't have any Priya. Okay. Sorry. I don't have any girlfriend, by the way. Don't take me wrong. Okay. So using this technique, we could develop apps for watch faces, fitness and health apps. I guess most of them are not doing health, but still, smart home control. You all know that. Gaming applications. I have developed a Flappy Bird application using this, where I use the function called Fly Flappy Bird. Then Fly Flappy Bird will like that function. I made it use like I use this right a scroll controller counterclockwise. If I counterclockwise the bezel, the Flappy Bird flies in it. So it's all the problem of getting high scores in Flappy Bird. And NFC apps and navigation maps. Navigation maps like, and one more thing in Wear OS and WatchOS, I don't find YouTube actually. So just take the link, create a web app, then take the API. You can use NFC apps are like tap to pay applications, and these are the major things that need to be remembered while developing Flutter applications in Wear OS. Interactive elements doesn't mean only this bezel. I have already shown you how would it be when going to ambient mode, right? When ambient mode is like always on display is there, you should be considering that as well. Responsiveness, like if, for example, what I have told, I have developed a Flappy Bird application. I just put the size 50-50, and if I open my watch, I couldn't even find my Flappy Bird. Should not be in that case. And battery efficiency, it is the major problem that I face always when I keep a phone in debug mode. Flutter applications comes for 400 MB and 500 MB. My phone, my watch switches off. Done. I have to wait for one more day to start this. Small screen optimization should be perfectly done. Okay, now let me like, am I left with them? Okay. Let me quickly connect to my watch and then show you how do we do this. By the way, who doesn't know how to connect for watches and wearables? This is a technique. This took me 1 month actually. This took me 1 month actually. Sorry. Let's see if it comes. I don't know. Yeah, it comes. Yeah, it connected. सर सर ये क्या है सर आप ही पूछा था आप नहीं देख रहे कैसी बात हो गया see one more bug I have found while developing for Wear OS. The watch is round, right? How am I able to see rectangle there? I just want to ask Samsung about this. Like if they give only placement, right? Without placement, I'm not going to tell them. See, if you go to developer options and wireless debugging, there will be an option called pairing. You just need to enter the code and then it will like get connected. Yeah, the same app that I have shown you. Okay, I'm scrolling. Yeah. See, these all are backlogs of Wear OS. The main reason for this is the app is in debug mode still. It is taking 200 MB of space, something like that. But the storage of this application, sorry, the Wear OS device is only 1 to 2 GB. That's all. So maybe that is the reason it is taking this much time to even open an application. But let me tell you the crazy thing, okay? While I was sitting there, it was working. After coming here, maybe it will work. Maybe it will work. Huh? Yeah, the same way how we publish normal applications, the same way it is. Yeah, it works. It works. There is a dedicated app. There is a dedicated play store for this as well. I just wanted to show everything, but gone. Yeah, it worked. Great, great. Sorry, I forgot to remove the debug banner. Proof of proof that it is in debug mode.
Yeah. Avidyanamantastiragiरे.
Only through scrolling.
The stream of consciousness for the
Let me pause it. Like I thought of making a full music player application that I could publish in. Soon it will come. So it is one more like you can develop anything what you develop in mobile applications, but the things I told you to remember has to be remembered and could be developed anything. This is my talk. Thanks for the day. Remember my name, Bashwandev.
Hello. Thank you, Vashwant, for such an interactive talk on wearable Samsung Galaxy Watch. So everybody, give him a round of applause. So we'll be setting into a quiz before we head over the break time. Okay, all good. You'll obviously get some goodies after this. Whoever wins, who doesn't like goodies? ठीक है
Menu. Menu 5 items. Community group. Menu expanded. Community, plugins, theme, settings. Community menu item.
Can we black out the lights? I'm super excited to announce the GeekConf happening next year in collaboration with obviously the great organizers of React India, JSConf India, the company that I run, GeekyAnts. The theme is going to be around open source and full stack, obviously.
Menu. Menu 5 items. Community group. Menu expanded. Community, plugins, theme, settings. Community menu item.
Can we black out the lights? I'm super excited to announce the GeekConf happening next year in collaboration with obviously the great organizers of React India, JSConf India, the company that I run, GeekyAnts. The theme is going to be around open source and full stack, obviously.
Bhushan, can we start? Uh, so yes, the break is over now. So here, so by the way, how's the talks now till far? I mean, till now, how is it? It's good. No, still noise is way less. Can we just raise the noise, please? Superb, great. So here, without further ado, let's move to the next speaker now. And we have got someone super awesome in this house today. And he's the developer advocate at 100ms, Google developer expert, Flutter and Dart. His talk is about theming in Flutter, and you know him and you love him, of course. So one and only one, Aditya Thakur.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. I am Aditya Thakur. Just waiting for this. All right. So really excited to be here today. This is actually my first talk after becoming a Google developer expert for Flutter and Dart. Okay. So I hope you take away something today. I have worked hard on this presentation. You know, I've scanned all the resources that were there around theming in Flutter, and I want to make a good experience for you. A little bit about me before we dive right into it. So I am working as developer advocate at 100ms. We are a live audio video company, so we help you add audio video calling and live streaming into your Flutter apps or any other apps for that matter. I'm also a content creator, so I've been creating YouTube videos. If you know me from YouTube, you would know, like, you know, I also have a community of Flutter developers. We are close to 2,000 members on Discord. I saw someone, he told me like he was on my Discord. Like, that was really cool. Thank you so much. Yeah. So today we'll be talking about theming. We'll start off, you know, why we need it, what is a design system, and you know, how do we translate it into your Flutter application. So this is the whole gist of the presentation. So we have our Flutter apps. They look basic, very bad, and we want to add colors to it. So we want to make it more vibrant, you know, maybe add a tint of pink there and make it look much better. We want to have components that go along, that users can view and use. And that is where a design system comes in. So generally, you know, you would have a designer come in and they will give you something sort of like this. This is a basic design system. It would have these brand colors, these components that you want to add. There would be button colors, a way that these components should look. And it's generally used to, you know, keep that consistency across applications. So this is like a very basic design. Like, this is taken from the Airbnb design website. They have like really good blogs, and if you can, you should check this out. So they have an article on building a visual language. They want their customers, you know, to have a consistent experience, and they have a bunch of these things built out for their visual language. So as Flutter developers, we don't really care about designs, but you know, when you're working for a company, you'll be approached by a designer. They would say like, okay, I want this, and then it would be on to you to do that in your Flutter application, and that is where I would help you achieve that. This is again from Airbnb's website. What they have written is like, we need to ship products on a multitude of platforms, and so to keep that synchronization, it is important. Like, the same things are not repeated across platforms. That is why theming and, you know, building out these components beforehand is really important. So in Flutter, as Flutter developers, you might be accustomed to Material, which is the design language by Google. It's open source. And as of Flutter 3.16 release, this was also at the start of this event. Material 3 is Flutter's default theme. And similarly, for Apple, there's HIG, Human Interface Guidelines, which is like the best practices for what you want to do when you're building applications for Apple's iOS platform, Mac OS, or, you know, Watch OS. So all of these guidelines are covered in HIG. There's Material, which is for like Android and all other platforms generally. So if you run a desktop app, it would also run Material on it. Like if you have a Material app there, which is weird because your customers might not be accustomed to that on the on the desktop platform as such. So generally, when you're starting out an application, you would see at the start of it, like you either specify a material app, a Cupertino app, but there is also another which is called widgets app, which we wouldn't be covering in this presentation as such, but it is important to know like there is a third one there, the Yoda meme, I think. So we'll be talking about material in general today in this presentation. We'll be covering that in depth. Why? Because Flutter is built on this aggressive composability. So your design system library should be too. Because you would have seen like you have all these widgets that are built on top of other widgets inside Flutter. So you want your applications to have a design system that is built on top of this material design language to both make it easier for any other developers to start out with it and also to like have a good experience across applications. So as developers, we are writing code also like not only for our customers but also for other developers who would maintain that. So that is really important. Here I have an example, which uses a custom button theme, and then you add a style from to it, and like any other developer checking this out would be confused as such, like where is this custom button coming from? How do I, how do I know like what is happening here? It's generally recommended to have like the inbuilt Flutter themes and use those themes. So I'll be talking about that. Like this is just a code snippet. This is not as such a not recommended by Flutter team. Like no, do this, but this is like a good practice to have. Also, I talked about material design at the last event. It was an online talk, but I'm happy to be back here in person and be talking about Flutter material design again, and this time more in depth with theme extensions covering a lot of these topics in person. So let's dive right into it. We'll be talking about custom theming. To start right off, it all begins at theme data. This is the Flutter framework giving you theme data to customize the overall experience of your material app. So you have a bunch of properties that you can modify, and you can do that simply by going to the theme data when you are specifying material app and changing the properties there. So this material app theme can be used to configure the experience or the visual appearance of your whole application. As of Flutter Material 3, inside your color scheme, you have almost 30 colors that you can modify, and a bunch of these come like this: primary, on primary. What would, like, if primary color is the base, what color would work on top of it? Let us say your button gets the primary color, so you want like an on primary to be a lighter shade, so the text on top of it is visible. And color scheme property is the only way to define colors in Flutter. The color scheme property in theme data define these color values for the active theme. And with introduction of Material 3, it becomes the correct way to add colors to your Flutter application. So inside your theme data, you can specify this color scheme. So you'll type in theme data and then pass it a color scheme. It would create that unified color scheme for all of your application to use. An easier way to do this, when you do not know much about colors, is to just use color scheme.from seed. You'll give it a primary color and then it would do the rest. It would create all those 30 colors that you want to use inside your Flutter application that would be consistent with the guidelines of Material 3. So if this doesn't make sense, let's also look at it once with code. So what would happen is, it would take your single color that you have passed, it would make all these auxiliary colors, and then inside your Flutter application, it would add them to where they are required. So let us say, your floating action button would get a particular shade, and depending on that, other components would get a particular shade of color. So this single seed color would become the source that would generate this palette of different colors. It's very beautiful. Like you can check out the Material 3 guidelines once. Like it was a good read when I went through that yesterday. But we'll talk about theme data. We'll talk about in terms of a Flutter developer. So if I create a Flutter application, I generally do like with the empty flag. So it would come up with something like this. It would have that material app widget at the center of it. And then you can specify like wherever you want to take it, like home screen, that you can create in a separate file, but that is for later. So it looks something like this if you do a Flutter application right now. I've added a bunch of buttons, so elevated button, some text button, and a filled and an outline button, and also a selector type of button there to just like see how the colors would affect them. So I'll start off inside my material app by adding or specifying the theme property. So I'll type in theme and then give it the theme data that I talked about. Here, the easiest way that I talked about was, using from seed when you are generating this color scheme, because it is the only correct way when doing it for material 3. So you'll add that color scheme from seed and you'll give it a seed color. It would be orange in our case, and it would make everything change colors in a way that would be convenient. So it would generate a palette for you. It would take those colors, and depending on whatever component is being targeted, it would change the color of it. So you notice that the elevated button should have like a lighter shade, whereas the filled button would have a darker shade. So it does that on its own. Similarly, that was the light theme. So it was like only for the, if your theme mode is in light mode, it would show that. But you can also similarly specify a dark theme. So inside your theme data, again you would type in color scheme and give it a from seed. It will be orange, but you will set the brightness to dark. And you can change the theme mode to dark to view the changes that are there on screen right now. So you'll notice, like, again, it generates a color scheme which is a bit darker, and it would adapt to that, creating that dark mode for your Flutter applications. But as Flutter developers, we might want to override a bunch of things here. So let us say the elevated button, you don't like the color of it. You can again go back to your theme data, and inside that create like a elevated button theme, which would have like a bunch of properties. In my case, I want to change the style, and here I can specify a new background color if I want to. So I'll use the material state property, which I'll talk about in a bit, and set it for all the states to a red color, and also change the foreground color to have like a much better shade, which would be white in my case. And with that done, everything else remains the same except for the elevated button, which changes. Again, this is the filled button. So this still gets the orange shade that we have for the whole of the Flutter application. But the elevated button theme would become red. And these small changes you can do if you want to, make a particular component have some particular properties. So in my case, I only modified the elevated button, but you can do that for a bunch of other theme options that are available to you to do. So when starting a new project, you would likely focus a lot more here. You would want your color scheme to match that with the one that is provided by the designer. You would want certain elements, like if you want an elevated button to be in a certain color foreground and background, you would do that. And that is all can be done with that theme data property. Again, this material state property allows you to do a bunch of dynamic styling. So let us say if you wanted a button to have a different color when pressed, you can change the state.pressed. You can resolve it with a fallback color. Like in my case, I'll use purple as the fallback. So for all other states that are not accounted for, I can return this purple color, and you would see like a effect like this. When you click on the button, it would change colors. I think this is also helpful when you're building applications for web. So you can set a hover property. So when you hover over the button, it would have a different color. That would be really cool. So again, like I talked about a lot of things. The first thing that I talked about was when you're building out a application, you want to specify a color scheme. But I told you that the easiest way to do it was from the seed color. But you might not agree with me in that case, because you don't know what color would come up for a particular component. You don't want the background color to be a light shade of orange. You want it to be black or white or something like that. While you can modify that, you can also use the color scheme dot class to build out a color scheme of your own. There are online tools available that let you do this with very ease. So there is, of course, the material theme builder, which is like the official. It's available officially on the m3material.io. dash theme dash builder. So you can access it there. It looks something like this. It would show you how your material app looks and behaves. But again, there are also a lot of people in the community. That is why I love Flutter, because a bunch of people see something wrong with it and they come up with solutions. So there is Material Mike. If you know him from Twitter, he has built out Flex color scheme, which makes it really easy to identify what colors you want to use inside your Flutter application. So this is based on the same idea as the color scheme itself, and Flex color scheme ensures that all the UI components get this custom color as provided. If you can do me a favor, please take a picture of this and retweet and tag RYD Mike there. I'll also share his Twitter handle later. But his package essentially lets you do that. And if you'll have a look on the website itself, this is how the theme playground looks. It comes with a bunch of effective colors that you want to use, and it will generate a complete palette for you. And you can go down to and you can use this emulator option to also see like how the different colors would look like inside your Flutter application. So when you are dealing with complex color schemes, this package, the themes playground, come into help. And you can do this with maybe a designer friend of yours who would help you with all the different colors that are there, how they should look inside your Flutter application, and modify the components as such. So design systems are not only type of like color schemes. Of course, there is a bunch of things that you might want to modify, starting with typography. So you want a certain font to be there inside your Flutter application. For that, again, you have a property that you can work on, which is text theme in our case. And if you see the changes within Material 3 and Material 2 type scale, you would see like there are a bunch of properties that are available to modify. There's display large, display medium, display small, and a bunch of these properties that you can read from here. This image might not be very clear, but you can read it on their M3 type scale, like on the Material IO website. So inside a theme data, again, I'll show you how to do this in code. Inside your theme data, we'll specify the text theme, which would take in this text theme, and you can give it a particular type scale that you want to work on. So in our case, I'll go with display large. Now you can add the different font size that you want to use, the different colors if you want it, and a lot of these properties as they are available in Textile itself. So let us say like the largest display, for the largest display, I want it to be a font size of 96 and a font weight which is like a bit bold, and the color should be black. So it would do that for me. And now if I go back to my Flutter application, like I want to use that display large theme inside my Flutter app. So I'll type in two text widgets inside a column, which would be hello world. One would be normal and one would be styled. And to this styled widget, I can use this display large by calling in theme.offContext, which is like how you access themes inside your Flutter elements widgets, and then you can type in text theme.display large, and you would see the difference here. The hello world normal would be the normal text without the theme, and the one here would be the display large, the text with the display large theme applied to it, which is like font size 96, a bit bolder, and also with the color black. So there is also another property to learn here, which is theme data.copy with. Let us say you added this theme to your theme data, but you don't want to modify it for a particular widget. You want some other changes that you want to add. So you can quickly use dot copy with on this particular theme value and change it to maybe like a different color. So you can type in color and modify that property here and change it to red. So the same black text that you saw here would change to red because you have modified the theme to have that color. Again, I think I forgot to add a slide for that. But generally, whenever a Flutter widget, it's getting its style, it first looks for the style inside its widget component itself. So it would look there. If it doesn't find something to style it with, it would go back to the theme data that is available inside the material app. If it doesn't find there also anything, it would fall back to the default styles that we have for material. So that is why material is helpful. It would give it some default styles to fall back on, and that is why if you want a few changes there, here and there, you can do them at the widget level. Although I would recommend modifying the theme as such, like it does everything for you, so you don't have to do that at the widget level again and again. So again, talking about this, the copy width is good for like doing small minor changes, like changing the color. It is not like, it would not allow you to change like a property that is there. So you can, for example, not make a light theme dark by setting brightness to brightness dark using copy width. So that would not work. It is always helpful only for smaller changes that are there, like changing the color, changing the font size a bit, all those smaller changes. So that would bring me to theme extensions, which is new with Flutter 3. These were introduced recently, and I would recommend you watching Craig's video on this on the Flutter YouTube channel, because that was more extensive than I can ever be, and also reading the docs maybe. So theme extensions solve this limitation of not being able to access the Flutter theming engine with your custom properties, and it will finally help you build a design system that uses this Flutter theming engine. Also, like, add your colors for different use cases. So let us say you have a bunch of semantic colors that you want to add. What are semantic colors? A bunch of you might ask. So these are like smaller colors that you add for warning something is going okay. You might need semantic colors for code highlighting. So if you work on that stuff, you might have like a bunch of graphs and you want to show like a legend. So you'll have semantic colors for that. And if you want to add those to your Flutter apps with theme extensions, it is possible now. So what happens is, right now, if you use the color scheme, in that all the 30 colors that are there, you only have one possible semantic color, which is the one for error, which is almost always a different shade of red. So if you want to have like a custom semantic color, let me show you how to do that. Again, we'll start off with the theme. Inside our theme, we'll use our theme data.copy with and add an extension. So you can add like multiple extensions with different colors or different properties that they modify. In my case, I'll go with the my colors theme extension, which would take in a brand color. And since I'm talking about semantic colors, it would also take in a danger color. So I'll do that quickly. And with this done, I'll have my theme data using that theme extension that we have built out. But now I also want to create this theme extension that we have here. So I'll type in the code for that. And what I'll do is I'll start off something like this. My colors, which that I just added to the theme, it would extend this theme extension of the type my colors again. And inside this, I'll first create brand color and danger. And then I would have to override two different methods. One is copy with and the other is lerp. So I'll copy, I'll take the values that we have specified inside the theme extension. And I'll also have to override the lerp method, which would be used for like seamless transition between the different themes. And it would just, make it possible for you to move from one theme to other. It interpolates this with other theme extension objects, and it ensures that a smooth transition is possible. And that way I would have like a theme extension ready. So again, like, you can go back to your theme data and simply add your theme extension that you just created and pass in the brand color that you have and the danger color, and it would add this extensions. And instead of using the default color scheme that it created, it would use your theme extension for a change. So finally, to end this talk, let me summarize what all we talked about, because it was a bunch of things and it might get lost in translation. But we talked about how you have a design system where you talk to a designer, they come up with a bunch of colors that you have to use. You have a color light and a color dark mode, and this will be provided to you, and then you want to generate a color scheme because Material 3 accepts color schemes. It comes with a bunch of 30 colors. You can't modify all of them, so you generally end up using like a seed color that you start out your application with. But if there is a case where you want to do this, you can do it because there are packages available by the community. There's the Material official website that lets you check how the different colors look. So you would create a color scheme, you would pass it to the theme data. But you can not only pass the color scheme, you can also add a text theme that you want. So text theme would come with its styling. It would have all the Material 3 type scale options that we have, like body large, display large, body small, display small, and all of those that were there in the presentation. You can add a text theme. You can add a components theme. So we talked about the elevated button. You can modify that elevated button to have like different material state properties. And you can also add extensions that you want for like semantic colors and all that. So this would constitute your design system options that we have available. And then you would package these and then you would pass it as a theme property to your material app. And that is it. Like that is the basic way to do it, to add like the design system that you have to your material app and use it that way. So that is it for my talk. I am Aditya Thakur. If you like this talk, reach out to me on Twitter and I would be happy to help you there with any questions. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much, Aditya, for sensational session. It was really awesome. Have a big round of applause for him. So just one announcement, actually. It is, by the way, any of you have participated in Flutter Global Gamer Challenge? Raise hands, please, if anyone is participating. Okay. Fine. If not, you can just, of course, reach to Poonam. Okay, for further thing. So now we will going to introduce our next speaker. But yes, get ready to be blown away. And he is here to drop some knowledge bombs to you. He is a senior software engineer at GeekyAnts. He is the founder of Flutter Brewery and Trending Codes. Put your hands together to welcome Hasnain.
Okay, am I audible? Backside? Who was that about this, sir? Okay, talking about myself, my name is Hasnain. I was a Flutter engineer, but then Ashwin told me that if you know a few concepts, then you're going to be a mobile engineer. So I think I'm a mobile engineer. So I made that change after the... I am also open source contributor at Flutter, founder of Flutter Brewery. It's an Instagram package where I do some crazy animations. So you can go ahead and check it out. Speaker at various meetups and conference. Let's talk about Flutter shaking hands with React Native. How many of you have you ever got a chance to work with React Native? That's great. Being a Flutter developer, we always have a kind of controversial talk with the React Native developers that we are great at performance and React Native is not that great and Flutter framework is great. But believe me, they are doing their own job at the best way and we are not on the wars. So it's always to be, take it as a very great things what they have developed in terms of Flutter framework as well as on the React framework. Now, I will be talking about if you have an existing React Native app, how you're going to use it on your Flutter site. But the first question comes to your mind is that why do we need that? Do we really need that? If you think of that you have an existing React Native app and you want to run your Flutter app and React Native app together in a one APK, this sounds crazy, right? I mean, how can we make two different frameworks work together? So here is the story how this came into the picture. One client comes to us and says that we need an application where we have a huge user base. I'm pretty much sure you're using that application. I'm not allowed to share the name of the client, but you're using that application and you're cursing that app daily because it's built in React Native and have a lot of performance issues. So the client come to us and ask us to develop a Flutter application and says that we have a very huge base, very huge user, maybe a lot of users, and we do not want to lose those users and develop an entire Flutter application from the scratch because it will take a lot of time as well as it will take a lot of resource as well. So they were like, we have a React Native app. Please do something that we should be able to use a new features in a Flutter side, a new screens on the Flutter side, and existing screens on the React Native side. So when these questions came to me, my reporting manager came and asked me that how we are going to do this. Is it even possible? I reached out few experts in the community, and I got an article from one developer saying that this is the company which has already done this. But there was not a clear or a clean way, explained a clean way of doing this on the technical side. So I got around 3 days to build this because on the 4th day, there was a demo call set up and I was having 3 days. So I kept all my research work and then I built something which using the article which I got from that company. So the company explained me that you always have to look into that there is a world of coexistence. You should not always think of, okay, how many of you have worked on a code base that, let's say maybe a developer X has built that application and maybe you joined a company and then you started working on the code base on the developer X and you're not able to understand what's happening with that code. And then you will be like, okay, I'm going to write this from scratch because I'm not able to understand. But I guess that doesn't work that way. You have to always consider the things that we always make out what is existing. So even when the will was developed, it was using the legacy. It was using the basic principles of developing a will, right? But whatever applications what we're using today was not same previous a year back or maybe 2 years back. So the world of coexistence help us a lot in terms of engineering as well. So the first question comes to your mind is that how can we make your React Native and Android to be a one app and run it as a single APK or single IPA and publish it to the stores? Now, if you see on the left-hand side, there is an Flutter app architecture or a folder structure. And on the right-hand side, you have a React Native. And you see two common folders in that, and that is Android and iOS, right? Now, we saw add to app, which was pretty much similar to what I have done over here, right? So you basically, what you do is you call your iOS native screen from the Flutter side. That's what we'll be doing. I'll be showing it on the Android side, right? So I'll be having a React Native app, not a native app. So now you have two folders over here, which is very common, Android and iOS. We'll be taking a closer look on the iOS side, on the Android side, sorry. Now, I'll come to this afterwards, but I want to have one thing as a question. Which app do you think it's written in Flutter and which app do you think it's written in React Native? Right, the app with the number is written in Flutter, and then the app with the number 7 is written in. And why do you find it that this is a difference? So, okay, you find it debug, but if you know the helpfulness of the Flutter, that if you write a button, you get a very pretty designed button, right? Now I have done the same thing on the both application. On the left hand side, I have written elevated button. I have got a pretty much nice button, but on the other side, I have to literally write a CSS and putting some. So if you are a bad designer, this is how your app will look like with a number 7, right? So now let's go ahead and do one thing. Let's go ahead and take this into an action. Now the requirement was pretty much clear that they have an existing React Native app. They have their state management technique used as Redux. I'm not sure whether you guys are aware of Redux state management on the React Native side, but like the way we use provider, in the same way on the React Native side, the popular is Redux. So they had a Redux as well as they have their own local storage for the token management and stuff. When user logs in, we have to manage their tokens as well. So the crazy requirement over here was to first run both the application as one bundle and then even store, even access their stores, local storage from the React Native side, and also access the state management from the native side. Now, when I started this, I was pretty much like, I was not knowing how can I do this, because it sounds crazy to club two different frameworks into a one framework and then build it as a single APK, right? Now we'll see this into an action. So this is the Flutter demo homepage, and what I'll be doing is, once I click on the Open React Native view, it will basically launch a React Native app, right? So this will launch a React Native app. Now, if you see over here, I have a simple counter app written over here. So this is the React Native view. I'll just increase. So this is being, if you see over here in the code base, I have used dispatch function. This is basically a dispatch function for the Redux store. So this counter is being stored and updating the value into a state management technique using Redux. So now this store needs to be accessed on the Flutter side as well, right? Now, if I go back, which will again take me to the Flutter side, and if you'll see that I'm able to retrieve the data which was there on the React Native app. So we are able to communicate between React Native and Flutter. Now the question is, how is this possible? Now, this was about the React Redux store, but we'll also take a look on the local storage. How do we share the data using local storage? So again, I'll open the React Native view, I'll increment the counter, and I'll read the data from the local storage of React Native, right, and send it to the Flutter. So data is sent, and if you'll see, I have a JSON which basically holds the email, the username, and the token of, I'm not sure whether it is visible, but it's the over here, it's the entire JSON. So this is how we are sending data from React Native side to the Flutter side. And also, it is possible to send data from Flutter to React Native side. Hence, we are able to communicate both the sides. Now, the question comes in, how do we able to communicate from two different frameworks? Now, why did I call myself as a mobile developer, not a Flutter developer? Is because I was able to achieve this writing a few stuff of code on the Android native side, not on the Flutter side, right? So when it comes to a development part, being a Flutter developer is really cool, but you really need to have this skill of adding and maybe progressing to learn on the native side, because the possibility is endless. You feel so powerful if you are working on the native side. So make sure you add this skill, because I'm pretty much sure that this is going to help when you're going to develop some crazy product, right? Now, over here, as I said, we have two common folders, Android. So basically, if I have from my lib folder, from my main.dart, I can communicate with the Android folder. Now, these Android folders are common in between, and if I merge them, then this is how my project structure is going to look like. So I have the entire React Native and Flutter app in a single folder structure. So if you see, this is my React Native configuration. If you see over here, package.json. This is my React Native configuration. So over here, this is where the React Native is installed, right? So it's on the root project, package.json, and also on the root, I have pubspec.yaml. So this is where they are sharing their configuration. Now the entire configuration is over here, and the common folder, what we see over here is Android and iOS. Now to communicate with two different frameworks, what we do is we go to the common thing. What we have a common thing over here. We have Android as a very common folder. So what we do, we use method channels on the Flutter side to communicate with the Android, right? And we used custom native modules on the React Native side, which is a kind of method channel being called as custom native module on the React Native side. So if I go inside my Android folder, and if I see inside my app source, and if I go to the main, inside Java and RN Flutter, so I have 4 different files over here. The one is main activity, which is, of course, coming from the Flutter side. And the one is my React activity.java, which is available to launch your React Native app on the native side. So now what I do over here exactly is I communicate with this folder to send the data using method channels from the Android and custom native modules from the React Native side. So let's try to understand how can we make this possible on the Android side. Now you have an Android folder common. What you do is from your Flutter side, you need to add the dependencies on the native side, which will allow you to compile your React Native app on the Android side. Flutter, of course, Flutter Android folder will not have these dependencies, whatever you see over here. You can see this. This is the React Native Gradle plugin, which will allow you to compile your Flutter application, your React Native applications on the Flutter side, right? So basically, we need to modify these three things. This is basically called adding React Native to an existing Android app. So this is the same thing. If you have a non-Flutter application, it's just an Android native application. Also, you can add with the same configuration, you can add the entire React Native application to the Android application. So these are the basic steps to do it. You add the dependencies so that Android native can understand how I am gonna compile React Native things on the Android side. So these are the native dependencies, what you see in the build.gradle on the root level, and on the app level, we have build.gradle, which is a configuration of your React Native, right? Now, on the other side, in the settings, you're seeing over here, if you are a React developer or you're a Node or a JS developer, you highly depends on the Node modules, because that's where all your JS dependencies comes in, or TypeScript dependencies comes in. So now you have dependencies on the JS side as well, which we are reading from the Node modules. So if I go to my project and if I show you over here, I'll be having a Node modules installed as well. So over here, I have the Node modules. So basically, I'm merging the entire project of Flutter and React Native at the root level so that I can configure it and use a same Android folder to make it run on both the sides. Now, this is the basic configuration. Now, this is just 3 steps, but this took me to understand what's happening over here. It took me around 3 days to figure it out, how I'm going to make my React Native application inside Flutter. Now, let's try to understand how do they communicate with each other, right? Now, on the very first step, if you see over here, what's happening on the React Native side is that if I click on Open React Native View, basically that is launching the React Native screen, which is going to the native side and then triggering this view. I'm not going to jump inside the Java code what I have written over here, but I'll just show you a basic thing is that I have a method channel written on the Dart side, which basically communicates on the Flutter side, Flutter native side, on the Android side. So you can see over here, I have created a new method channel, and the method channel over here is start RN activity. So basically what happens over here is I create an intent with saying that launch this class, which is basically a React Native view, what you see with that counter. I also attach Flutter engine on the as an put extra, so that I can access this Flutter engine on the React Native side as well, right? And then I simply start the activity that basically launched the React Native activity on the Flutter side. Now, along with this, there are many things needs to be set up, which I cannot go inside because it's very much technical. But I'll just show you a basic thing where how we are sharing the data. So if I go to my custom native modules, what I'm doing is I have a channel, which is basically a method channel over here again, which invokes receive message channel, which I have set a handler on the native side of, not on the native side, but on the Dart side, where I will put all the results and then create a bridge and send a message from one framework to another. Now, once we, however, we build our Android application, it will get built in the same way. And this is how we'll be able to communicate between 2 different applications. So the point over here is, if you know a bit of native, the possibility is endless. You can do crazy stuff. Because when I did this, I was pretty much confident on I can develop anything now, because when I started, I felt like this is crazy. And when I connected with different developers as well, they were like, not sure how to do this, or not sure whether this is even possible, right? So now this was opening the React Native activity using a method channel. Now this is how we are sharing a message from React Native side to Flutter, or Flutter to React Native, is that we always go to the native. We create a custom module on the React Native side, send a message from custom module to the Android native, and Android native sends or invoke a method channel which we have set in handler. If I can quickly show you the handler on the, so remember this receive message, I'll just go ahead and search it. So here in my main.dart, I have created a method channel where I have created as a handler. So now I'll just set a debugger over here. And what I'll do, I'll just go over here and just do an increment. So do you see that as soon as I did an increment, the message was passed from that channel to over here. And you can see the arguments over there. The arguments, what I'm passing over there is the counter increment, that is 1. And this is the method, which is called receive message. So whenever the method name is going to be a receive message, I'm going to take that message as a string, pass it to an integer, give it to the counter so that I can see that counter on the Flutter side. So I'll just remove the debugger, continue it, and go back. So I'll see 1 over here, right? So this was a very seamless integration to merge to different applications. If you have any questions regarding this, maybe I can answer it up. That's all from my side. I am ready to answer your questions if you have any. Yeah, please.
Instead of React Native, it is Unity. The one problem I am facing is from main activity is the one which extends.
Okay. Before we go much dive into the questions, I am not an expert native side developers, so I'll be only able to answer the questions if it is more on the Flutter side.
Yes, on the Flutter side. So what is happening is when I come back to Flutter from the previous activity, it gets killed. So is there any way I can recover?
So it's basically
it starts from main function.
Okay, so it's basically something like this. Right now I have 1 over here, which is basically on the React Native side. If I go back, it should be 1 always. So basically we are not able to maintain this state.
Context.
Yes, so we are not able to maintain this state from React Native side to a Flutter side or Flutter side to React Native. It's just very simple. Again, it's just a business logic that if the React Native activity is already initialized and having few data, you should not reset it. I mean, this is just a very basic POC which I am showing you over here, which doesn't handle that edge cases. But again, you are able to communicate, so you can handle any kind of edge cases which can be given. So it's just like once you communicate with the once you've already communicated with the activity, you should be able to manage the state. More questions?
So I have a question that when you are combining the files and folders of React Native and Flutter, wouldn't it increase the app size too much? And how do you optimize the app size in this case?
Okay, so the very first thing is right now what we are trying to do is we are mainly focusing on the business side where we have to compromise on few things, right? I don't want to lose my existing users as a company. I have like 1 million of users. You don't want to lose those users, right? So in that case, what happens? You cannot keep your app as always half app in the React Native and half app into the Flutter. You should be taking a consideration of that. In future, you're going to migrate React Native screens to Flutter eventually, right? So you're not going to develop the entire app from the scratch, but what you'll do with a time, you will change one module or migrate one module from React Native to the Flutter. Once the module is migrated, you might delete the expected files and you can reduce. Now, the problem over here is if you're going to keep your React Native application same as it is and keep adding a new activities or a new features into an Android side, then into a Flutter side, then there is a no sense of having a hybrid framework because you always have to go to the native side. You have to always type a code on the native side. So again, if you are a hybrid or a cross-platform developer, then this doesn't make sense. Again, you need to have a developers who can work with the iOS and who can work with the Android. So this is for a time period until you migrate your React Native app towards the Flutter side, right? Once you change the module, once you migrate the module, you can delete those existing folders, and gradually you can come fully on the Android Flutter side. And on the Flutter side, you know how we can reduce the package size.
Thanks.
More questions?
You showed like how to move from navigate from React Native to Flutter. Like, do you have any working example to move from Flutter to React Native?
So it's just like what I'm doing over here is, if I can just show you. Initially, what I'm doing is I'm launching the main activity, right? Okay. So my Flutter engine, when I will run a project on the Android side, Flutter engine will always go ahead and look for the main activity, right? Okay. Okay. Now, in the same way, if I want to give an init screen to be of my React activity, that can be changed on the native side. So right now, what we are doing is we are doing a main activity, which basically Flutter engine will always look for this class main activity, because it's a Flutter project, right? And the configurations over on the Flutter side is always they look for the main activity, which is extending a Flutter activity. But that can be, of course, done using a change over here. But again, I'm not a native developer, so that is possible basically.
Okay, like because currently I have one POC that I'm working, so that needs like I have to open an Flutter way from React Native. So
that is possible. I have this entire project on the GitHub.
Yeah,
Maybe you can just go ahead and take a look.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. No more questions? Okay, then thank you so much, and maybe we'll meet off the stage.
Thank you, Hasnain. It was really electrifying, isn't it? Yeah. So now, hope you have gathered all the valuable sessions from all the speakers. Now we have to end this session for online viewers, of course. So before we end, we just want to just appreciate our members who is behind the entire scenes of the meetup. So let's applause for this guy whose name is Bhushan. Single-handed, he has handled the entire live stream. And our gorgeous co-host, Sanna, over there. And beautiful Brikshi, who is part of the entire social media post. And yes, this entire setup and the entire snacks, everything, they are responsible at the backside. Kitchen team entirely, Dulal, Pavan, Grimsha, Kanu, everybody. Yeah, so now we'll just close for the online viewers. Thank you so much. We're signing off.